Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Attitudes with Andy. You beautiful humans, thank you so much for being here, clicking on a podcast that you know is going to better yourself. That is what we are all about here at Attitudes with Andy. And today we are talking about a very cool topic that is kind of new to my world, maybe in the last year or so. And we are talking about breathwork, finding stillness and how to just improve your life through calming down and being more present. So to talk about this, we have the beautiful Jonty on the podcast today, who is a breathwork coach, and he is also the founder of I Am Human, which is an awesome community that do breathwork every Sunday on the beach, and it is just phenomenal. So it was a short intro, but I'm excited to hear about your journey a bit more, but we're going to learn lots of tips and techniques, and then also Jonty's why and all of that good stuff. So welcome, Jonty.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You are welcome. Thank you for the cacao. That was great.
My pleasure. Yeah, I think it's a really good way to kick off anything. You know, to open conversation, to open our hearts, and just to drop in, really.
Yes, I love that. So I actually usually do quite a long intro for each guest, but I was like, I'm actually going to keep this one short because I'm really curious. How would you describe yourself? Because it's interesting. Sometimes how we would describe ourselves is different to like how people perceive us, you know? So I'm just curious.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, I'll just correct one thing that you said.
Okay.
Co-founder of Human.
Oh,
with
yes.
Alan. Yeah, just to put that out there, just to ensure that I'm not taking all the all the reign for it. How would I describe myself? That's a really good question. It's one of those ones where you start to think from many different angles, from the outside in or from the inside out. Do I describe myself as, an athletic person who enjoys being in nature, who enjoys looking after himself, or do I describe myself from my internal view? I'll try and figure it out right now for you.
Go internal, I reckon.
Go internal. Yeah, when I listen and tune into myself, I'll describe myself as a person who really just wants to improve myself, improve the world. Someone who wants to give back, someone who wants to support and see others thriving in the world, and ultimately just see the planet in a better state that it is, and that's through giving back, through being of service, through putting the work in to ourselves, for doing our best in the world and doing our best for ourselves ultimately. And yeah, I guess in terms of, we can go into things that I like. I love being outdoors. I love getting into nature. I love fitness and training and exercising and doing all the things based around that, and ultimately just trying to be the best version I can possibly be.
Wow. That was a great summary. I really like that.
Thank you.
And I feel like your intention of trying to better the world is definitely seen through the work you do. So breathwork, I'm excited to learn more about it. I kind of briefly know, it helps calm you down and all of that. But before we do kind of get into the nitty gritty, I'd kind of love to know about how you found breathwork and the potential impact that it's had on your life.
Another good question. I'll track back to 2015 when I was working in banking. I
love that. That's so random.
Yeah.
Like, you do not seem like a banker.
Yeah, I went to uni, studied finance and economics, got the job in banking, worked my way up. About a year in, I was living in a flat with 8 guys, an absolute a mansion in Auckland. We had it all going. We had a pool, tennis court, all the things. Had a good job, was earning good money, but was highly stressed and was starting to basically become insomniac.
Really? So you weren't sleeping?
Yeah, I was getting to that point where it was 2 to 3 to 4 hours of just lying in bed trying to sleep and really struggling, and then really starting to get into my head and freak out about, being tired the next day and all the different things, and basically going down the spiral and just going down and down in these circles, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I wasn't able to concentrate at work. I was struggling in all areas. I was having blow-ups at my flatmates because they were partying in the weekends, and I was like wanting to try and sleep and try and rest and kind of not be there with that scene. And it struck me one day, I was like, I need to fix this. I need to get on top of this, and I need to sort myself out, and what's going to do that? And had a conversation with a friend, and he basically said, hey, I've tried these meditation tracks, you know, just chuck them on and just follow it. I was like, okay, cool. I'll give it a crack. And I'd put them on at night time before going to bed, or as I'm about to go to bed, I'd play them on YouTube, and they were these 8-hour tracks.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it's basically just like gentle music and someone just saying, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And it took me, you know, the first couple of weeks, it was like just listening to that and trying to concentrate as much as I could. And it might have taken me maybe 3 to 4 hours to get to sleep. And then it went to 3 hours, and then got to 2 hours, and then got to an hour of being able to calm myself down, and then to 30 minutes, and then 15 minutes. And then eventually got to the point where I could breathe and calm my system down enough to be able to sleep and to be able to essentially rest and ultimately control the heavy stuff that was going through my system at the time. That was kind of the introduction to breathing and breathwork. Very simple form, you know, just literally not doing anything specific, just breathing in and out. No holding for a certain amount of time or breathing in for a certain amount of time. It was just focusing on the breath and really just diving into that. Track forward a little bit further, continued on. You know, I'd always been into fitness, but I wanted to expand my horizons, and so I started doing yoga. And pranayama or breathwork is a huge part of the yogic practice. And from there, continued doing a lot. And with yoga, every pose you do, if you can breathe through the poses, you can go deeper. So you really have to connect your breath to your movement. And you also have to connect your breath to your mind. And you have to think about how you're doing the poses, and you have to breathe through them, and that allows you to go deeper. And so I went through a phase of doing yoga sort of 5 to 6 times a week, and that then further continued my improvement of the state that I'd been in, the highly stressed state that, you know, where I was at the verge of just wanting to end my life.
Wow.
And continued out of that. And then from there, when I really got into actual breath work, would have been the start of 2020, the start of COVID. I had started a job, been there for 3 weeks. The job finished. COVID started and the job ended. I couldn't carry on working.
Still in banking?
No, I finished banking in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, and had a big journey from there until moving to the Gold Coast in 2019. But yeah, really got into like specific breath work in start of 2020, and did quite a bit of research. Read a book on holotropic breath work, followed lots of videos on YouTube, you know, went through some Wim Hof stuff, and went quite a bit deeper into lots of different types of breathing, and kind of got to a point where I had kind of brought a few different bits and pieces from a lot of the people that I'd learned, and like made my own little practice, and went on a journey of about 6 months of doing it every single day, like a 30-minute practice.
Wow.
Of really going really deep, like sitting there, setting an intention, doing the breath work, selecting specific music to guide me on it. And yeah, throughout that 6-month process, really just awakened something within my body, like really just like built the fire up within me that just allowed me to continue on and yeah, ultimately get me to the point that I am at now.
Incredible. What a journey. What an impact it's had. What was it like having insomnia?
Not fun at all.
Yeah.
Again, like I explained, a downward spiral. It's, you start thinking about sleep, and I'd start getting anxious about trying to sleep because I was struggling to sleep, and the anxiety would then set me off, and then I'd try and lie down and sleep, and I'd get to the point where I'd start thinking about the next day, and then I'm thinking about the next day, and I'm stressing out that I'm going to be tired and I'm going to be run down, so then that would create more stress, and that would create, again, the downward loop that would take my mind and my thoughts to some pretty dark places, and then you're just stuck in that. And, you know, there were lots of things, you know, I was like, oh, should I get some sleeping pills? And I didn't want to do that. I had tried to use sleeping pills in the past when I was a bit younger at uni, but I just really didn't agree with them. I've just like knew in my body that taking sleeping pills is not good for us, and wanted to figure out a natural way. But yeah, for anyone out there that suffers insomnia, I think just coming back to breathing is the way through it, but it's a process.
Yeah, it really sounds awful having insomnia. I have a friend who has it, and I'm just like, oh, maybe breathwork might help him.
Yeah.
So, breathwork.
Yeah.
Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What is breathwork? People might hear that and be like, yeah, breathe every day.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. Well, breathwork is basic. In its most basic form, it is very simple. It's just focusing on breathing. And again, for anyone out there, you don't have to go and do some expensive course or, go and be coached by someone or whatever. You can put a timer on and just breathe. Focus simply on breathing. And I think breathwork, in a sense, is a gateway towards a meditative state. It's a practice that we can engage with that helps us remove ourselves from our mind and connect ourselves with our body to drop into the present moment and to allow ourselves to focus on one thing, simply breathing in and breathing out. And if the longer you do that, the calmer you can the more you can bring your body down into a de-stress state.
Lovely. I find that it is so much easier to do meditation once you've done a breathwork beforehand.
Yes.
Because it definitely helps calm it down. So what would you say are the benefits of breathwork?
The list is endless. Where would I even start? I think first and foremost is a connection with self. I think a lot of people are dissociated from their bodies and aren't really connected to what's going on in their physical body. Either they're so distracted in their mind and so focused on the stress in their lives or the things that are controlling their lives or that they perceive to be controlling their lives that they don't allow any feeling or they don't allow themselves to touch base with their bodies. So I think the first thing that's happening is you're choosing to connect with your body. You're using your mind and your thoughts to connect with your breath, which ultimately connects you to your body and your source of life, and which ultimately helps you bring in more oxygen. And I think if we look at health from the lens of our body's ability to absorb oxygen, we look at breathwork as a foundational piece to living a very healthy life.
Incredible. And does it help also reduce stress?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, because it connects you.
Yeah. So depending on how you're breathing, a lot of people breathe predominantly through their mouth throughout the day, or they're very stressed and they shallow breathe, or they breathe through their mouth, which is actually creating more stress. So that's putting them in that sympathetic state, or it's keeping them in the sympathetic state, which is your stress response, where you're in that fight or flight or freeze state, where you're, people are trying to, you perceive that people are trying to get you, you perceive that the world is a threat, you perceive that, that there are threats out there essentially, and you either fight those threats, you either freeze and can't do anything, or you flight, you run away, you avoid situations in life. So when you can start controlling your breath and predominantly breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth, but in through your nose, you're allowing yourself to drop more into the parasympathetic state, which is your rest and digest. And it's taking time for your body to actually just simply be once again. So in terms of a very simple way is if you can breathe and can control your breath through your nose, you can de-stress yourself. But if you're naturally breathing through your mouth, you're maintaining a stressful state, essentially. However, if you do controlled breathing through your mouth, you can actually bring yourself into more of a stressful state to help break through that state.
Oh,
essentially.
Really?
Yeah. So that's ultimately, if you're going into a breathwork practice and you're breathing in through the mouth and out through the mouth and starting to increase the repetition of that and the rate of the breathing, you're taking your body into a stress state on purpose so that you can start to break through that stress, so you can start to feel it and push through it and to understand it more. And that's why people you might have seen videos online of people screaming and people yelling and people crying. It's because they're diving into that stress. They're diving into all the shit that has been holding them, and they're using that stress response to work through it. But then once you come out of that, you come back to breathing in through the nose to calm the body back down, to ease out of it. So it's like a controlled way of experiencing your own stress.
So in that setting, because I have seen videos of that, and usually are those the ones that quite like longer breath works because you're really going deep? And so is that because people have like buried emotions that they're like suppressing, and then going deep helps release that?
Yes, spot on.
Yes.
Pretty much. Well, you can look at it from many different angles, but ultimately by holding yourself in that stress state and maintaining that and having someone guiding you through that for, you know, starting at say 10 minutes or all the way up to a 90-minute or a 120-minute session.
Whoa.
You're continuing to breathe and having someone guide you through it. Again, you're just going into the depths of your own being, and you're breaking past the layers, I guess, of your conscious awareness, and you're allowing your body just to start working through whatever's coming up. On a side note to that, it can be very almost traumatizing for some people to go through those states and to re-experience the stress that they've had in their life, you know. Someone that might have PTSD or something along the lines, like if they go deep into a practice, they can bring up stuff that, you know, they might bring up, you know, an image of some past abuse or images of something really gnarly that happened to them in their lives. And if they don't have the right coping mechanisms or the right ability to maintain, I guess, a level field or a level playing through that, they can stay in that pretty stressed out state. And if they don't have someone to help them integrate it and don't have someone to support them through the coming out of that, it can be quite a stressful thing for people to go through. So I think the integration is also very, very important.
So this is something that you would do with somebody else, not by yourself?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you've been doing it for a while and you feel very confident, yes, you can push yourself to that point. I think having, like, I've done like 60 minutes by myself. I'm just like going not as hard as I can, but going very hard. And I've taken myself to some places. However, I think having someone to guide you through that process and to hold you through that process is going to be a lot safer, and is going to support you. And you're also, I guess you're integrating. And I think when you have someone as well to be with you and to hold you, I think you're setting an intention first, or you're being intentional. You're setting up the right setting, the right space to go through this journey. You're having someone to hold you through it and take you through and guide you through that process. And then you're allowing that person to help you integrate and just to support you going forward. And I think that's how you grow. You know, if you're only just going straight into the practice with no intention and no ability to integrate, you could be left in all sorts of different situations. It's like the same thing as a psychedelic journey. If the intention hasn't been set and the setting isn't there, and there's no rules or a system for integration afterwards, who knows where it's going to lead you.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see where this takes us.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Yeah, okay. So if people are like, okay, well, I don't want to do this hour session right now, but I do maybe want to start doing breath work to start up the day, is like a 5 to 10 minute breath work session solo good?
Yeah, definitely. Even a minute, you know.
Oh, okay. So she's like,
yeah, literally just put a timer on for whatever amount of time that you have available. Put a timer on and start breathing. You know, the most simple way to get into it is breathing big long breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Letting it go. If you want to go a little bit deeper and to bring up some stuff maybe, or push through something that was stressful in that day or the week that you've just had, doing some big long breaths in through the mouth and out through the mouth, and always ensuring that you're in a safe space, you know, like whether you're lying on your bed or sitting on your bed with nothing sharp or like, you know, no sharp edges around you or anything. Because if you start doing some big breaths and you're sitting up, you know, and I've done this before, just a side little story, one of the coaches that I was working with got me to stare in the mirror at myself for 10 minutes a day to be comfortable with myself. And I was like, okay, well, may as well do some breath work at the same time. And I started doing breath work, and I started going quite hard while I was staring at myself in the mirror doing this practice, and I fainted and face planted the mirror.
Oh, did you break the mirror?
No, I broke the edge of it, like the frame.
So you were standing up doing breath work?
I was sitting
Oh, you were
in
sitting.
front of a mirror, and I passed out and fainted sideways into the mirror, like a big face mark on the mirror. So yeah, I highly recommend, not driving. I had a friend that I taught some breathwork once, and we were driving, and he was in front of me, and all of a sudden he just stops in the middle of the road. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, what's going on? I'm like tooting the horn, and like 20 seconds passes. I'm about to jump out of my car and like go check in on him. People behind me are tooting. All of a sudden he starts off and he drives off, and we get to where we were going. I'm like, bro, what did you just do? And he's like, oh, I just did that little technique that you taught me. And he's like, I fully just passed out. He's like, I just went into another realm in like 10 seconds, for 20 seconds. And basically his body just took over and stopped the car for him because he was fully gone.
What was the technique you taught him?
It's the big full breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then 6 really fast breaths. But you're sitting up like really fast, in through the nose, out through the mouth, as fast as like big and as strong as you can, and then breathing all the way in, holding, but then squeezing your stomach out, like really pushing out your diaphragm, and holding that and squeezing your whole body and tensing everything. Squeezing with your stomach out, and like I don't know what exactly it does, but it shoots energy up to your head, and quite often you may pass out, or you like it'll send you into another realm temporarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between meditating and breath work? Or is it the same thing?
In a sense, they're both taking you to the same point, or you're both getting to the same point. Meditation is simply sitting and being with yourself, and ultimately just observing what's coming up with no judgment. Many people would have many other descriptions of what meditation is. It could just be simply being, and just being in a state of presence in the moment around with whatever you're with. Breathwork is a form or a practice to take you into that state of being present. And I think about it as, for me, and like you've said, sitting down and trying to meditate, I start fidgeting, and I'm like, oh, what's the time? Like, did I put my timer on? Have I done this? Like, going through thinking about tomorrow, thinking about the day before, like all sorts of things come up. Focusing on breath work, putting on a timer as well, and practicing breathing, and doing a set type of breath work, whether it's 3 rounds of 30 breaths or 5 minutes of just breathing into the mouth and out through the mouth, whatever you want to do, drops you into that meditative state. So one's like the segue to the other, but they're both kind of tied into the same thing.
Yeah.
Connection to the present moment.
Yeah. Sounds like that is the aim of the game.
Yeah. Always.
Always.
Yeah.
So, present moment. I'm glad we touched on that, because I feel like a lot of people struggle to be present. I am one of those people included. Like when I'm in nature or when I'm speaking with people, it's pretty easy, especially when I'm speaking to people, because like you're just focused on that. But then other times, if I'm driving or brushing my teeth or in the shower, like mindless tasks, that's where my brain's like, okay, I'm going to think about this, and I got this idea, and then we're going to do this. And then I'm like, Andy, come back to the present moment. Do you have any tips on like how to be more present? Is this normal?
I think it's very normal to think.
Yeah.
It's a one part of our being is thinking, and our thinking mind. I think a way, and the first thing that's coming up in terms of being present, and this is something that someone told me about, and that I believe is a beautiful way to be able to remove the thoughts of the mind, or not so much remove them, but to process them and to alleviate the mind from them, is to write them all out. If you have thoughts, write them down. If you have lots and lots of thoughts in your mind, just simply get out a pen and just write whatever's on your mind, and just put it out there. And as soon as you put it down, quite often the mind will stop thinking about it and you'll bring yourself back into the present moment. But again, breathing. You know, any time that your mind starts going and wandering, come back to a breath. And that's a practice. That's a form of meditation, is to observe the mind and to watch what's going on. And you might be able to sit in a state of presence and observation where you're just watching everything go by. And then all of a sudden a thought will just grab you and you'll go with it. And you'll start going off on that little path and thinking of whatever, that little plan or that idea or that conversation you wish you had or the conversation you want to have or whatever it might be, or the job or your work. And then if you want to come back, you just take a breath and you come back into the center, back to the state of observation, letting go, back into the moment. And that's a very simple way to do it. It's just to come back, remember the breath.
Have you become a lot better at being present?
Yes, in many ways, for sure. I still have conversations with people where I'm with them and all of a sudden my mind just starts going off into other places. And I'm like, well, I have to come back to the reality and come back to being present with them. Yeah, it's just a way of life.
Yeah.
I think the more consistent I am with my practices and the more consistent I am with practicing being present, the more I'm present in my daily life and my daily interactions, for sure.
I love what you said about writing things down.
Mm.
I think that's so important because I'm always like, guys, we're not a filing machine. Like we're not meant to store everything up there. It's like I write everything down. I even have like a checklist for like pre-setup so that my brain doesn't have to like be like, have I done this? I'll just look at the thing. Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, I've done it all. Yeah. And, journaling in the morning or evening or whatever and just brain dump. Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. I like this technique, which is literally just brain dump, but maybe like once or twice a week, literally just get out a pen and paper and then just like write everything. Mainly this is like not tend to be feelings, but like things that are on your mind or like things that you need to do and just like get it all out there and then like make an action plan. Otherwise your brain's going to be like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do this. And you're like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah, I love that. And I think also as well, if you don't write this stuff down, believing in yourself to remember what you need to remember, like just trusting that, when you've got these thoughts, sometimes you might be going to bed and you're like, oh shit, I need to do this the next morning. I need to do this. I need to do this. And yes, you could go and write those things down, or you can just trust yourself and know that you will remember those things. You will remember the important things.
Yeah.
I do that. And, if it truly is important, of course you're going to remember it. Of course, straight away, as soon as I wake up, I'm like, boom, that thing. Straight onto it.
I like that. Fun fact, sometimes I'll throw a pillow at my door if I have a thought like that. And then when I see it in the morning, it like triggers that thought again. It's
smart.
really random.
Yeah, it's great.
Like throw a pillow practice at your door.
Yeah, it's a great practice. Yeah.
Okay. So present moment. Also, don't know if you listen to Cool to Be Conscious, but if I want to do a breath work, and I just am putting this out here, if people are like, oh, where do I even start if I want to follow a breathwork thing? I love Cool to Be Conscious daily. Like
the 5-minute one.
Yeah, 5 minute. Or they have a 10-minute one, I think. It's on Spotify and YouTube. Yeah. I really love that.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah.
Really straightforward.
Yeah, you know what? I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, do it.
So people can do it. Yeah. So you co-founded I Am Human.
Correct.
What was the intention behind I Am Human?
Great question. So I'll spin a little story and just share how it all begun, basically. When was this? Mid-2021. I had been a little bit disconnected from some of the practices that I've been doing and made a decision. I was like,
why was that?
I think just the flow of life. I've witnessed this flow, and sometimes I'm really committed to all these practices, and I'll do them, be really consistent, and it's almost like this has happened in the past. I've changed ways a little bit now, but I'd get to the point where I've done so many of these things, and I'm like feeling amazing. Like everything's just flowing well. And it's almost like that. There's this, whether it's self-sabotage or it's it could be anything, but it's like, okay, cool, yeah, I've done enough. Yeah, like I'm sorted. It's almost like this false belief that like I've done all the work now and that somehow, you know, I don't need to do as much as I was doing before and I'm going to just keep getting the same results. And so I've been through a couple of phases like that, and where then all of a sudden all the practice I've done just kind of fall off. Like I'll still train and I'll do bits and pieces, but the structure and the planning and all that sort of stuff kind of falls away. I've gone out of the masculine and allowed and be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to flow with life now. And pretty much every time we've done that, well, not every time, but some of the times we've done that, that all the things that I've built up in my life just seem to just drop away. And is that for the better of my life? Potentially, yeah. It's helped me grow in so many ways. And so anyway, I had let go of a lot of practices. I was just going through a bit of a phase of like, okay, I need to get back into something because I know, you know, I haven't been as consistent. So I made a commitment to do a 30-day breathwork challenge for myself. Full month, 34 days of waking up every morning, doing this 20-minute practice. This one that I designed for myself in 2020. On the 30th day, I just completed the full 30 days. I was at one of the gyms that I was taking a class at. And funnily enough, that morning, no one turned up. I was like, cool, okay, perfect. I'm just
Wait, you were running gym classes?
Yeah, I was running a class, at a studio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in Palm Beach.
For yoga?
It was a burn class. It was like a combination of movement, breathwork, yoga, and HIIT, like a HIIT workout, a combination of those four things.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
what a combo.
It was really fun. But yeah, no one turned up anyway. And so I was like, I'll just do my own workout. Cool. Anyway, in comes this guy into the studio, and he's working next door. And we just started chatting. And this was Elon. And I was like, oh, what do you do? Can you tell me a bit more? And he started telling me about what he did. And I thought, wow, this sounds awesome. I'd love to do a session. And
what does he do?
So he's his thing's called Elon therapy. I'd say he's a multimodality or multifaceted therapist. So he combines, 10 plus different modalities into a technique that basically helps the body de-stress or drop back into itself. Really powerful stuff. Like, yeah, he's incredible. And I was so fascinated, and I was like, can I pay you for a session right now? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll just I'll do a free consultation. I was like, no, I'll just pay for a full session. Anyway, we started.
All or nothing.
Yeah, and we started chatting, and I just told him, I was like, oh, I've just done this, I've just finished 30 days of breathwork and blah, 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 and we started talking about it, and he goes, oh, I've been running these little events on the beach, and he's like, I want someone to come and help me out. Like, would you like to come and help? And I was like, oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm very open. I'd love to. So I went and helped him out. First event, came along, just observed, and I was like, oh, I'll just come and observe the first event and give you some feedback or whatever. And so then we sat down afterwards. I gave him his feedback and was like, yeah, I think this is epic. And he's like, okay, cool. Do you want to do the meditation next time? And I was like, yeah, sweet. And then this was like September or something. And then after a couple of the sessions, we just sat down and we're like, cool, let's join forces and rebrand this and make human. And yeah, out of that, our little brainstorming sessions, Human was formed, and we launched Human at the start of 2022, start of last year. The idea and one of the goals that I'd written down for the previous year was giving back 10%, whether that was like financially or with my time. And I think this, serendipitously, the 30th day of the challenge, meeting this guy, joining in and helping him out, and then forming this, partnership to create more impact and to give back even more. And it just tied in with everything that I've been doing. And I think that's it's just such a beautiful sign or a serendipitous moment of like when you commit to yourself and you're true to what you want to do, like your opportunities will just come to you. I wasn't searching for anything. It just walked into my life, and I took that opportunity. I saw it as such a big opportunity to co-create, and I knew how powerful it would be. And even though, at times standing up in front of 50 to 100 people, feeling a bit nervous, like, okay, this is happening, but you just lean in and you just do it. Yeah. And then it will just all flow from there.
That's so beautiful. And what were your feelings when you started doing it? Was it like, I'm on the right track, like this is what I want to do? Or
I think my soul knows that it's right. My mind was telling me that I was an imposter. How do I deserve this? Why me? Why would people want to listen to me telling them to breathe? There's a lot of that. A lot of like just sitting with my mind and, standing in front of people and guiding them through sessions while my mind is bombarding me, trying to tell me that I shouldn't be there, that I shouldn't be doing this, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not qualified, that I'm not whatever. All the little things that your mind starts creating to try and stop you from what you should be doing. That would happen a lot. But my soul knew, and I knew how much I had to continue to show up for myself and for this greater mission that we have.
wow, I really appreciate your honesty just then.
Yeah.
That's huge. Why do you think that our brain does that?
Could be a multitude of things. I think it comes from the society, or like the conditioning of society. It could come from belief systems that we've taken on from the people around us. The word coming up, the tall poppy syndrome. Thinking why should I be standing up? Why should people want to listen to me? Why am I important? And I guess in ways it's forms of self-sabotage. It's trying to keep us in our comfort zone. It's trying to keep us away from doing things that are uncomfortable and that scare us and that are daunting to us. But it's funny, like I grew up doing quite extreme sports and do lots of pretty out there gnarly things. Bomb big hills on my skateboard, surf like pretty big waves, ski down some pretty gnarly slopes and do massive jumps and big cliffs. And I'm so comfortable doing that stuff. Whereas standing up and talking in front of people, all sorts of different things are coming at me. Whereas standing on the top of, a 50-foot cliff on my skis, I'm like, epic. I'm excited. And I'll just ski off it. Whereas like about to, stand in front of 50 people or 100 people, like not so much now, like earlier on, just like so nervous. But what was it? I heard something the other day. It was nervousness is just excitement without the breath.
Oh,
And so I think of that, and before hearing that, I would always tune into that. Like if I'm feeling nervous, I'm just saying to myself, I'm just excited. Like this is just excitement. Like it is a form of excitement ultimately. And I'd get this as a kid or as a teenager when we're going on surf missions, and the swell's big, and you're in for like a bit of a battle with the ocean, but you don't know how big it's going to be, and you're driving over the hills, and you can see on the horizon like big like lines of swell coming in, but you still don't know how big it is, and you don't know what exactly the condition's going to be until you're right at the beach, almost until you're paddling out, and you had that just nervous feeling, like at the start of a ski race. You're like standing behind the gates with your skis on, and you've got this big slope in front of you. And it's like these butterflies inside you because you're like, here we go. This is a time I have to show up for myself and to really lean in and to be present and to focus. And I love it. I think that's being in the flow of life.
yeah.
It's feeling that and not subduing it, just feeling it and pushing through it.
Yeah. So how did you kind of deal with this imposter syndrome? I'm so glad you brought it up because I think it's a really common thing, especially when people are like starting to put themselves out there. They're like, why would anyone listen to me? What if I know that I've 100% dealt with that, or like that still comes up, and like, it's horrible, isn't it? It's like, it's a horrible feeling. So like, how did you overcome that?
I'm still working on that. However, I think in the moment, it's just sitting with it and observing it. And one of the words or one of the themes that I like to apply is just being in a state of non-reactivity to it. Just seeing it. Not hearing the voice of like, oh, why should I be here? And then answering back to it going, no, because I should be, and blah, 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 and like trying to fight it or trying to argue with it. Just witnessing it and being non-reactive. And maybe even loving it. It's just saying, I love you. Like something simple like that seems to just wash it away. And Is it something that's going to be with us forever? Maybe. I'm not too sure. You know, you hear stories of people that are in their 50s and 60s that are wildly successful, and they have been for 20, 30 years, and they still question themselves. Why me? Why have I done this? How come I am here? You know, so I think it's something that we just have to integrate, and we just have to be with it and accept it as part of ourselves, as maybe it's our shadow. You know, we're integrating that dark side of us. We're not pushing it away. We're not telling it to leave. We're not shaming it or condemning it. We're just being with it and loving it and knowing that it is a part of us. It's just a voice, and that's all it is.
You just spun that so beautifully. Like you made it be like, oh, it's so nice. It was so human.
Yeah, because it is.
Yeah. And also going way back, but I just wanted to say thank you also so much for being honest about you like being super consistent and doing all the things and then dropping off and then being and I think it's like, wow, thank you for being honest. And it's so true about like self-sabotage. I've had that in moments where like I'm doing really well and I'm like thriving, and then like I hit this imaginary glass ceiling where, and I figured this out, where like my brain's like, oh no, you've changed too much. There's too much growth. There's too much like uncertainty. Like, can you go back to your old ways? And like before I realized this, I used to like self-sabotage, and then I'd look at things and I'm like, what? Why am I doing this when I don't want to be doing this? I want to be over here. And then now when I hit that imaginary glass ceiling, I'm like, all right, this is where we lean in to the discomfort and like pushing past that. That's what helps me. But yeah, thank you for being honest.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, celebrate that point. Celebrate that point where you're freaking the fuck out. You know, excuse my language.
No, it's all right.
You know, like get to that point, and even still, I still sit with this, and I question if some of my actions are self-sabotage. Like, I know some of them have been in the past, and I still question behaviors and actions now. I'm like, you know, today I just want to rest. Is this me self-sabotaging and just avoiding what I should be doing, or do I actually need a rest? And so I sit with that a lot, and I constantly am just playing with those two sides. Like, do I actually need to just be, or is this a lazy component of me that's just, you know, doesn't want to sit in the discomfort?
That is so true. Something I found has helped that is I always ask myself, like, I'll get still and then I'll be like, what do I need? Because like what I want versus what I need is often different. And then that usually gives me the answer.
Yeah. I love that. And adding to that as well, it's like in this moment, what do I need? What would I want? And what do I love? And adding that little further part onto it, to the moment and to what we want to do, helps us kind of bring them all together and tie them all in really nicely.
I like that. Talking about stillness and having a rest, I feel like there's a very big push for like hustle culture and go. We got to grind, and this is the time to like build and do. And whilst I'm very like take action to where you want to be, like I actually am very much like, yeah, do the things. And it's like in my mind anyway, this is how I look at it. I'm like, yeah, I know that there's lots of things I need to do, and I just got to do them even when I'm not feeling like doing them. But equally, I'm like, I also love to go to the beach or like have enough sleep or exercise and do these things, because for me that is productive and it is going to get me to where I am, because then my brain is like chilling, then I get creative thoughts, then I'm calm and I'm not stressed. So like, what's your thoughts on like hustle culture versus like resting or combining? Am I making sense?
Yes, yeah, you are, without a doubt.
Thanks for listening to my tangent.
Yeah, I love it. I sit with these as well a lot, and really playing with the idea of like, do we have to grind ourselves to oblivion to get what we want? Or can we look after ourselves and focus on nourishing our body, our emotions, our mind, our spirit, our relationships? And then will those things just flow from that without having to be in this like hard go, get shit done type attitude? And I think it's an integration of the both is what I'm coming to. I went from the going to university, finance, economics, getting a good banking job, in that kind of mindset of like, go, do more, like keep going, don't rest, party in the weekends, work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I burnt myself out. I then went from that and went the complete opposite. I got lucky with some investments and things and allowed myself, you know, a year or two to basically just be and play and surf and do the things that I wanted to do. And I let go of this, like, having to try and work hard to get shit done. And then from that point, I just allowed myself to be. And I spent a lot of time focusing on myself and reading and self-development. And then from that, the things that I've created have been far beyond what I could have imagined when I've allowed myself just to focus on nourishing my body, my mind, my emotions, my spirit, my relationships, to focus on myself. And then I've just been able to flow into those things that I love. But now I'm starting to realize, like, it took a bit longer. It's just been more of a process to get to that point. So now what I'm starting to work on is creating the structure, and within that structure, creating the space to flow. So creating and blocking out space where I'm allocating time for nothing, or just to simply be, to do whatever I want to do. Could be anything. Could be walking. Could just be lying on my bed with my arms open wide and just breathing. It could be running. It could be reading a book. It could be, you know, any creative pursuit. But having the structure so that I know that I'm doing the things that I need to do to get where I want to go, but also having the space to do the things that I would love to do, but actually don't know that I would like to do those things.
You would love to do, but don't know.
The things that I'd love to, like, there are lots of things I love to do, but I'm like, how would I structure them in? Because it's more intuitive.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
Like, love to just to flow with whatever's coming up in the moment. You know, if I want to lie down and have a nap, if I want to go for a walk and listen to an audiobook, if I want to do this, you know, I'm starting to create space just for that complete openness. So like the structure to allow the flow within the structure.
Cool. So then you've got productivity, but then you've also got the flow.
Yeah.
You've got a good combination of both.
And that's what I'm working on at the moment, is like really getting into that state. And that's come from like the quite very structured and very like rigid to then the complete opposite to then now trying to integrate both of them.
Yeah, I like that. It is interesting because, yeah, finding that balance is hard. And when you were talking about having like a year or two off, and just like being with yourself and chilling, like, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of gave me the mild heebie-jeebies, because I just love like having something to like work on and make progress towards. But I suppose like working on yourself is progress.
Yeah.
Because I am a big believer that progress equals happiness. That's Tony Robbins' quote. But
nice.
But it is so like so true. Like if I was just like lying on the beach every single day, like holiday mode, I wouldn't feel very fulfilled. Whereas like when I'm doing stuff that I love and like working on it and like putting effort, that's where I feel the best.
Yeah.
Is that bad?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. It's your way.
Yeah,
you know?
true.
Is your way bad? No. Your way's your way.
Yeah. I also find that sometimes trying to have absolute balance just throws me completely off. Because at the beginning of last year, I was like, right, okay, no work past 5 p.m., no stuff before 9 a.m. Like, you know, like I was just trying so hard to have utter balance. But then it's just like, no, literally on the weekends, all I'm going to do is like just edit and plan and do stuff. And I'm just like, do you know what? Let's just flow with that. And then if I need a break, I'll just listen to that. So I think maybe I am more flowy than you. Yeah. Not flowy, but as in like I'll have like intentions of stuff that I need to do, but I'll just like go with the
you do it at the right times.
Yeah. But then at times, like sometimes you just need to sit down and do it, even though you don't feel like doing it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a great way. Like, and same thing in those times that I'm allowing myself just space to do whatever. Sometimes I get really excited and I want to work on creative projects or do some work or do some writing or whatever it might be. And because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm allowing myself that.
Yeah.
You know? But again, it's still a work in progress, something that's constantly developing and that I'm constantly trying to figure out. And I went through the same thing as you of like, yeah, I just want balance.
Yeah.
I want perfect balance. And it's kind of like, well, what is perfect balance? Like, is there such a thing?
Yeah.
Is there? I think I think having balance or having perceived balance is almost like striving for perfection potentially, because life has its ups and downs and life has its flows. But I think if we're, again, coming back to working on ourselves and working on our body, our minds, our emotions, our spiritual connection, we will be supported, and I guess we'll be in a state of equanimity as we flow through the ups and downs, through the curveballs, you know, rather than trying to be this perfect person that's balanced in all ends. You know, we've got balance between our personal and professional lives, and we've got balance between our family time and our friend time and all these other different things. Like, I don't know, it seems like trying to find the impossible.
Yeah.
It's a good word though, balance. It's a great word.
It is a great word, but it definitely is different for everyone. That's so true.
Yeah, what is balance?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sick of worrying about it. So I'm just listening to what I want to do.
Yeah.
I usually finish every podcast with the quick five.
Quick five.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's just whatever pops into your mind first.
Sweet.
Before I ask you the quick five, is there anything else you'd like to sprinkle in here?
There's lots to share, but I think life just comes back to being authentic with oneself. I think that is the essence of being human, is just really being authentic with yourself, who you want to be, how you want to show up, and then just following that. I think that's where all the beauty happens, you know? Like, fuck the past. Like, if you made mistakes, whatever, like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you keep holding on to that shit from the past, your present moment's going to suffer, and so is your future. If you're so overly concerned about what's coming up in the future, same thing. Your present's going to suffer. You're just going to be in a state of stress. So you have to obviously create a compelling vision of what you want, who you want to be, and what you want to happen in the future. But then you have to let it go and just be in the present. Learn from the past. Integrate it into the present. And create a compelling vision forward. And that's where the flow of life is. And the way to do that is through breathing through it all. Always coming back into the center, and just breathing and being and loving.
That's incredible. I'm so glad you brought up, like, not always thinking about, well, definitely not thinking about, like, your past, otherwise you're living in your past, but also not thinking about the future too much, otherwise it takes away from the now. And I have people in my life, and I'm so lucky to be surrounded by ambitious people, but some of them are so ambitious that they're like, no, I'm not going to appreciate where I am, or like be proud of myself where I am right now because I haven't made it yet and I haven't done everything I want to do yet. And I'm like, that is literally like walking up a mountain, going on a beautiful hike and being like, I'm not going to appreciate the top until I'm at the top. And it's just like, why not just stop at each way and be like, oh, look at the view. It's quite pretty. Go us. High five.
Exactly. You know, again, it's like, have a beautiful vision of the future and connect to that vision, but don't attach yourself to it and base your happiness or your joy in the moment on that, on the achievement of that. Just constantly come back and be, how can I be the best in the moment? How can I do my best in the world and be the best for myself?
Definitely. And then you're going to enjoy the journey. So you're going to be able to keep walking on it. Whereas if you're like, I'll be happy when, I don't believe in that. I'm like, either be happy now or you won't be. It's just like the world, I really believe, this is so random, but like whoever created the world, call it God, the universe, whatever, doesn't really matter for this situation, but whatever created it wasn't like, all right, guys, here's the rules. To be happy, you need to have a mansion, really good car, $100 million, all of these things, right? It's like, I don't think that's how the world was created. It's like happiness can be found in the now, because in the now, unless you're in physical pain, there's actually like no suffering. It's like all the suffering we create is in our head. That's why like being present is so important. Anyway, that was just an added thing,
Beautiful.
but I love
Yeah.
what you said.
Yeah.
So let's get into the quick 5.
Okay.
The first question I have for you is, what is your favorite quote?
What is my favorite quote? God, there's so many different things flashing through my mind right now.
You say a few.
The first one that comes up to my mind, I can't remember her name, but it's like, the universe is full of magical things patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper. I love that one. I think that is beautiful. Like, there is magic all around us. It's just, are we sharp enough to see it and pick up on it?
Ooh.
I love that. That one I shared with you before, like, you know, nervousness is just excitement without the breath. I really loved that, and I really remembered that. Yeah, that's probably the most that I have for now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay. What is your favorite book?
Favorite book? A book called Buddha and the Badass.
Buddha and the Badass.
Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani. I think I said his name right. I read that book in 2020, I think it was. And maybe 2021, I can't remember when it came out. But yeah, really powerful book. He's the founder of Mind Valley. They're an online education platform, but they like the stuff that they do is really powerful. And his whole vision is like, you know, for $500 being able to offer a better education than Ivy League universities.
Wow.
Yeah.
$500 isn't much.
Yeah. And he's been on some awesome podcasts. He's wrote a couple books. But yeah, I really love that book. That going through all the exercises in there really sort of set the foundations up for a lot of the things I've started creating in my life.
Cool. Okay. I love the title as well.
Yeah.
That's some clickbait title.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the best investment you've ever made? Whether that's like financially, time, whatever. Best investment you've ever made.
I mean, I just got lucky putting some money into cryptos in 2013 and managed to, you know, in terms of financial investment, like returned a very decent amount, which has supported a lot of the different things in my life. And then I've used that money to invest in coaching for myself, which I think has been probably one of the better investments in my life. And the third thing, just to, you know, add on to another part of that, was a spatula. Yeah.
Wait, what?
There's this brand called Tavolo do these like little jar scraper spatulas, and you can, you know, like peanut butter jars or like smoothie bowls or anything.
Yeah.
The spatula will just pick up everything. You know, you've got a jar that's got, you know, all the leftover peanut butter, and you can just ring it around the rim and you'll get every little bit of peanut butter or whatever nut butter out. Perfect. You know, or like when you make a smoothie and there's still all the stuff on the sides, like this thing, just like the way it's designed, you can pretty much get every little bit of it out like very quickly and just scrape it around and like, yeah, like this. You can see these.
Yeah.
You scrape it all out and you're not going to waste a single thing.
And that brings us to the sponsor of today, spatulas.
Yeah, Tavolo spatulas. Yeah, please sponsor me.
That's actually great, because whenever I'm like peanut butter low, I'm always like trying to scrape it with the knife.
Yeah,
It doesn't really do it.
Nightmare. You know, and I think that comes out of a bit of
Nightmare.
pain
Sorry.
of nightmare. It's very true. You know, as I was growing up, you know, would be having ice cream for dessert or something, and my dad would be like scraping the bowl with a spoon, and I'd always be like, it would just drive me insane, and I'd be like, "Are you trying to eat the ceramic, or like what are you doing?" And so I just see that as a solution to that problem as well. You know, so much more than getting peanut butter out of a jar.
I love where your brain went with that. Okay, the next question I have for you, and I wasn't intending to ask this, but it just popped into my mind, and I'm curious. Do you agree or disagree or neutral to the statement, money doesn't buy happiness?
Yeah, I think money can buy time, and with time, you can find happiness.
Do you mean time, or do you mean opportunities?
Well, I think on two perspectives, happiness is something that we find internally. However, if you work hard and you make a decent amount of money, you free yourself up from the time you have to put into that. And then that free time is time that you can then use to find the happiness within yourself. So it's kind of you can find it from both ends. You can find it just internally by doing the work on yourself, or you can work really hard, make a lot of money, and then allow yourself a lot of free time where you will also discover the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think up to a certain point, if you don't have enough money, it can cause like a lot of stress because like at the end of the day, like our world does revolve around money. Yeah. And like I've been there where I've been like so stressed about money and like being able to like pay my rent. Whereas like now I feel like so like very abundant and all over that. And it's just like, that's just hugely minimized as an unnecessary stress.
Yeah.
And then like having money definitely gives you the opportunity to like pursue what you want to pursue. Yeah. So it's like, it's like money is paying for this studio right now. Yeah. And it's like, that brings me a lot of happiness. So
yeah, exactly.
But they say past a salary of $70,000 a year, any increase doesn't actually change your happiness.
Yeah, your levels of satisfaction.
Yeah. And like, I think if you're a miserable person thinking like, oh, if I have $1 million, then I'll be happy. Yeah. It's like, no, you got to go in because there's still like, you know, celebrities who have millions and all the wealth and all the fame and they, you know, are miserable. So it's like.
Yeah, it's like it's like, how do you find contentment?
Mm.
You know, can you find contentment with every situation you're in your life? And if you can find contentment with every situation in your life, you can find happiness. So if you've made $1 billion, but you're also very content with that $1 billion, you can find happiness through that. If you're struggling, but you can also find contentment in that process of struggling or financially struggling, you can find happiness and you can see your way out of that by finding that contentment through the process.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked you that question. Okay, I have 2 more questions, and I'm not sure if they're going to overlap. But one of them is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The first thing that came to mind, it was probably not the best advice that I've ever received, but I'll start with that.
Okay.
Was C's get degrees.
C's get degrees.
When I went to uni, someone was like, C's get degrees. And straight away I was like, oh, I'm just going to like do nothing at uni now. Did that work in my favour? I still ended up in a good position. However, I think that kind of bypassed the concept of putting effort in. You know, I was like, oh yeah, if I just put minimal effort in, I'll get by. Which I think in life, when you put minimal effort in, you'll get minimal results. So in terms of flipping that around, I'm trying to think. Best piece of advice. The first thing that's coming to my mind is having family friends over once, and we had a big dinner. We had a bunch of people at our house, and one of the older family friends, he was probably 16 or something, and I was maybe 12 at the time, and he had helped everyone clean up and, you know, help the parents clean up, and all the kids had shot off and were playing outside, and he stayed back and helped them clean up. And my mother said, oh, you know, young Charles, he's such a gentleman for cleaning up and for offering that support to us. Like, what a gentleman. And like, I look back at that moment and I just like kind of that, not even that it was advice for me, but it was just a comment on someone else's, their way and how they gave and how they supported, dropped me into like, yeah, every time I would go to people's houses, like just like how I would show up for people and how I would give back and support them, especially when I'm invited into someone else's space, and how I would show up. So I think that was a quite a foundational piece for like how I would give.
Yeah, that's so nice. Go Charles. Isn't it cool how like one person just being themselves can literally have such a ripple effect?
Yeah.
And it shows because you brought us cacao this morning. It was so thoughtful. Thank you. Okay, the last one I have for you, I think we might be up to number 6, but I can't really count, so it's fine. We'll say number 5.
Yeah.
5.5. If you could embed a thought, habit, mindset into the listeners' ears that would better themselves, what would it be?
Let me ponder that one for a little bit.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just doing some lobby
Yeah,
music.
turn on the elevator tunes. That's a big question, you know. It's kind of like that question, like if you could put up something on a billboard, you know, what would you put up?
Well, you can answer that as well if you want.
The same thing. There's so many cliche things that are coming up to mind right now. You know, be yourself.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams. Love yourself. You know. I think ultimately, all it comes back to is trusting your inner self and following that. You know, following that inner guidance that you have, that comes from your gut, that comes from your heart, and just listening to that and taking it step by step, trying to find that place where that beautiful voice is, where you can follow it and you can be with it. And I think you then follow those things, you listen to the intuition, you take the action from that because you know that it's important, you know that it resonates with your body, and then as soon as you do that thing, the next thing will pop up, and then you follow that next thing, and you follow the next thing. And if you keep doing that, you'll get yourself into a very beautiful place in life.
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. My heart feels very full right now from this conversation. Not sure if it's the cacao or you or both. I think it's both. But thank you so much. If people want to follow along your account, I Am Human's account, what are the Instagrams?
I Am Human, so it's like I.am.humn. That's the business page, and personal is Jonty JCH, JONTY JCH.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's a bit of work to be done on that, but this is this year's job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Work in progress. We love that. And I'll put all of the links down below because I'm bad at spelling. So
yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
We love that. But thank you everybody so much for listening along. If you did enjoy this, feel free to share it on your Instagram, as that is how we grow and we continue to have wonderful guests on. Feel free to tag us. My Instagram is @andy.bentley_. That is everything. If you guys also want to leave a review, that also helps.
Yeah,
shameless plugging here, but you know, we love that.
Yeah, of course. Call to actions.
Call to actions, because this is free content. So that is the way that you can give back, is literally just sharing this either on your Instagram or to someone and just leaving a review and then clicking follow. Simple things, really.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me on today. Appreciate you and what you're doing, and look forward to what the future has in hold for you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode. Bye.
Party.
Party.
We're on.